Hello, welcome to the Level 1 News. Today is August 30th. We are almost done with summer, any day now, and today we're doing government and social media news. And another soda review, if we can open this bottle.
This one's pretty exciting. It's quite the gimmick.
It's a terrorizing taste, nuclear orange bomb.
And there's a picture of dear leader on there.
But we were debating, it's definitely not the current one, right? Is it the grandfather or the father?
I don't know.
It looks like the father, I think.
You know, I'm not
which is
that familiar with their faces. Now that
Kim
I think about it.
Jong-un, right?
Yeah, probably. It says pure cane sugar. There's not really, it's a water, cane sugar, citric acid, natural orange flavor, real vanilla, natural coloring. Nothing in nature is this shade of orange.
Not like fake vanilla.
I'm trying to think. Well, tiger lilies are.
This one is actually from one of our editors. This is like truck stop orange. That did not work out.
Oh, you lost some skin there.
I did, yeah.
Can confirm. Truck stop bottling.
This is mostly cream soda, just a hint of orange.
Does it give you the feeling that you might want to put somebody in front of an anti-aircraft gun?
For daring to eat more than their apportioned amount of food.
For falling asleep during a state meeting?
Yeah, it's almost odorless, which really mutes the flavor. The flavor comes from after you take a drink, and then whatever's left starts to evaporate, and then you get a really strong like vanilla cream taste with just a hint of orange.
So would you say it's not nuclear orange?
Yeah, the amount of orange that you get from this is about the same as somebody made orange juice in the kitchen, fresh squeezed, about 2 hours ago, and you walked in and it's like,
still smells a little bit like orange in here.
yeah, that's the level of orange that I get from it.
It's do they do this with like other world leaders, you think? Like, is there an orange soda that has like Biden on it somewhere?
Because who cares about it? He's not interesting.
He's not interesting, but
I would love to have some Mouse Bubble Yum, but that would be good.
So you've taken 2 or 3 drinks. How do you now feel about Western media?
It's a little over the top.
Think it's dangerous?
A little dangerous, yeah.
Think it needs to be rooted out?
It's certainly good at whipping people into a frenzy over nothing.
I kind of agree with it, and I haven't had any. But let's talk about big tech companies because, gosh, that's a popular topic, and they've gotten so big that we maybe don't really have control of them anymore.
Nope.
Maybe the dog is, it can't walk it anymore because it's stronger than you. And how did we get here? Well, maybe there's an answer.
Tech's lobbying agenda, I can't remember the exact headline, but Tech's lobbying agenda is following a big push to allow consolidation, study shows. So, Google wants to consolidate not just all the things that make sense, but all of the things that don't make sense as well. Facebook, they want to control literally every online destination that you might be interested in.
And as they grow with every merger, the lobbying increases and what they get for their lobbying dollar also increases. So they pay more, but they get more in return.
What is it that you always say? There's this little bit of an incestuous relationship. You see, the more consolidation there is, the easier it is for control as well. And so if the tech companies can demonstrate to politicians that they have a measure of control and can shape the message, then politicians are a lot more, let's say malleable to the message that they're peddling.
A little bit. I think we're up to flippers and eye stalks at this point.
I don't think our politicians matter so much as the companies in charge of us, really.
Oh, we didn't do an audio test.
Yes, we did.
Did we?
Yeah.
It was fine?
Yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
We
You were
also
playing on your
cut
phone.
the air conditioner.
Oh, I was completely on autopilot. My bad.
And the government agencies do go after some people, but so often they ignore the forest for one little sickly tree. Now, I agree this is a bad tree. We should get rid of it. But this should be the priority should not be this.
The FCC asks for a $5 million fine for right-wing activists' election robocalls. The other part of the headline, which wouldn't fit here, was they intend to give that $5 million fine to let you know that your auto warranty has
They've been trying to contact you.
It wasn't that kind of robocall. They were calling Primarily black people. How do you get a phone number list that's just black people? Who do you buy that from?
Why is there a list of that?
Like Facebook, right?
Well, they don't sell it. But they were saying that if you vote by mail, that information will be used to track you down if you have debt or warrants. In a way, as is often the case, they're tiptoeing into like even more racist territory by assuming that would be effective against the black community because they all have warrants and debt. No one seems to understand that when they're white knighting.
I've been following some of the election lawsuits, and some of the stuff is really hilarious. Like California owned Goal some stuff pretty hard. Like they changed the paper forms and then accidentally mailed people the old paper forms. So there's a lot of people, their votes just didn't count.
Yeah, everybody. But based on the optics of that story, that guy's going to get crushed.
Yeah.
And he deserves it. We shouldn't feel bad for him.
We should crush all robocallers because they don't work.
That's true.
And they're very annoying.
They're super annoying.
Yeah, but you can't argue that they don't work and then go after him for that amount of money. They have to argue that it did work.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this and I was terrified. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's only naturalized citizens. And I felt better. And I was like, well, I shouldn't feel better about that.
No, you shouldn't.
Just because I'm not part of it, I should still be upset about this.
Little known federal software can trigger revocation of citizenship. Known as Atlas, the software mines various federal databases for derogatory information, and it runs autonomously on Amazon servers.
So this is, I think this is what ended up. Remember when they first started checking your social media?
Yeah.
When you came into the country? This is what has come of that.
Yeah.
This is the bottom. Well, not the bottom. This is maybe the midpoint of the slippery slope.
Yeah, there's a long way we can fall from here.
Yeah. Well, just by applying it to the rest of the citizenry, right?
Yeah, it really is a kind of digital McCarthyism. It really is.
And they won't tell us exactly what it does, but obviously it's looking at your social media and anybody that you're interacting with online, stuff like that.
You don't even have a chance to appeal or explain it. It's like, we saw this social media post and it sounds like you're a filthy communist. And it's like, well, I might have attended a meeting. They have some convincing pamphlets, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to hijack an airliner or anything.
It sounds like you're a filthy communist, and we only allow those in Congress, not the regular citizenry. Get out. Intel is definitely taking advantage of a crisis. They have seen something that is lacking, and they are looking to get some federal dollars.
Intel inks a deal with the Department of Defense to support domestic chip building ecosystem. Meanwhile, Global Foundries is like, do what now?
Why you put this on a green background?
Yeah, that's a question I'm sitting here asking myself. This is like the laziest stock image they could have developed.
It's the Matrix or
And
something?
not even a good background.
I don't know.
Poorly clipped out. It's bad.
Terrible. So the government has obviously identified a problem with the lack of chips, and they're saying, hey, we've got to get chip building going on in this country. What's it going to take? Mountains of cash, turns out.
And it's not just Intel. IBM and a bunch of other companies are involved here, but also Global Foundries.
Aren't they building one in Arizona?
Yes.
That's what kills me. It's like, why Arizona?
A lot of people pointed out that Arizona, it's good because it's, geologically stable. There's I wouldn't put it in California because of the earthquakes and stuff. That's kind of a big deal. But water?
There's no water in Arizona or California.
Aren't we still on the...
Semiconductors use a lot of water.
Yeah, and the Colorado River is slowly getting smaller and smaller because we keep using too much water in that region. It should be somewhere else.
Lake Mead has gone into emergency mode the last 2-3 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just keep blasting that water in production we don't have.
We're going to have to go get an ice asteroid at this rate.
I think we should go to the northern border, and then we'll just throw a hose over. Get some of that Canadian water's better anyway, right?
Why not build it in the Great Lakes region, though? It just doesn't make any sense. We have places that have water.
I'm pretty sure Nestle owns that.
Could we put a couple of outboard motors on some of those glaciers that broke off and just pilot it?
Takes us a long time to melt. Although maybe we could use that for cooling for all the other machinery. Well, software as a service is the new hotness, and a lot of people look down on it and they don't want to see the world go that way. But in some cases, it's really bad when the world goes that way because it makes it really easy.
The FBI has sent its first ever alert about a ransomware affiliate. So it's like, okay, here's an email. It's you get a phishing email, and then this is going to end up being a very professional group that's got their stuff together because an affiliate has sort of opened the door for them, which makes it extra, extra dangerous.
And you can spin up your own hacking ransomware as a service, and all you have to do is the legwork. They will do everything else for you. The toolkit to once you phish them, it's pretty trivial. So, zero barrier to entry. What could go wrong, right? This one is somewhat disappointing because while this is an overwhelming intrusion on your privacy, I think once you take that step into public service, you shouldn't have it anymore.
The government officials' internet browsing histories are not agency records under the Freedom of Information Act. So what happened here was the Cause of Action Institute sought to get copies of what certain politicians had browsed on the internet. That should be a records request, right? Those records are normally not maintained. So that seems to have been the main out here.
And the reason they can get away with this is because they don't have any rules about what their employees do while they're on the internet. Now, if they did have those rules and they were monitoring, then they would have to Freedom of Information Act, which means they will never do that.
Wait, there's no rules about what you can access while you're working there?
Apparently not.
And no rules on retention.
Wow.
And if they were to add that, if you were in there, if the only outbound connection from your computer was HTTPS to OnlyFans, it wouldn't matter. They still wouldn't do this because then they open up that door for oversight.
Yeah.
So if you are in one of these places, go crazy. Whatever you want.
Look up all the weird questions you have about stupid stuff at 2 a.m.
So many weird questions. So many.
And if there's a web GUI for some kind of horrible spying tool, just use it all you want because they're never going to do anything. In fact, maybe you could use it for this because it seems like every police presence in the country is using the hell out of it.
Google says geofence warrants make up to 1/4 of all U.S. demands. Geofencing, in case you're not, in the loop, is basically we want to know all the mobile devices that are in this given area. And usually the given area is pretty large at a specific time or in a specific time window.
How many of those have already proven to be false arrests at this point? Isn't it like 5 or 6 high-profile ones?
Yeah.
So you had...
It's not a perfect technology.
982 in 2018, a big jump in 2019 to 8,396, and then in 2020, 11,500. So we're definitely trending up. They do not give numbers on how many of those they denied. But it was a small number, don't you?
It's probably on the order of like single digits.
Yeah. Well, the Space Force, which is now Space Command, did we change it?
Probably.
Because it was Trump, right? You can't leave anything he created. He must all be destroyed and the earth salted. But Space Command has, they've been around for a couple years, and they say that they are now ready. They're out of the teething stage. They're ready.
The U.S. Space Command is now, quote unquote, a warfighting force, and it needs a permanent home. There's a lot of rambling and, just general bureaucracy in here, but the real gold nuggets were, we think in just a few years we're going to have force fields and laser beam, like space laser beam.
Who are we fighting?
Well, listen, if we get the space lasers on board, everybody else having an air force is not going to matter.
That's a different story.
Oh, that's a different story?
That's a different story. Yeah.
Well, it's the same event.
Maybe. But this one he's talking about, they want like an actual building somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't have one.
What? Who are they fighting?
The moon people.
Yeah, obviously. How much money is getting,
So
siphoned
much.
off into that? And
So
it's like,
much.
what are we gaining from this?
It turns out that we're just a backwater planet, and there's this elite
A
global
real
civilization.
utopia somewhere.
Yeah. There's this Stargate under Cheyenne Mountain. It's fine.
Krista, we spent $3 trillion and 20 years to do nothing. Does this surprise you at all? And lives. Don't even think about the lives. Well, California, it seems that they keep digging, and the more that they dig, the more rancid and horrible the earth becomes under this company.
California expands its lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. Oh boy, there's so many fun things that are coming out of this. The most insane and delightful, but also insane again thing is the shredding parties.
Yeah.
So there have been so many, and California was like, wait, you're shredding a lot of human resources documents? Why? I was like, recent change in company policy. Don't worry about it.
But we changed the name of McCree in Overwatch. Don't you guys feel better? Please stop talking about this and keep playing our games and buying loot boxes.
Have you?
No.
Ooh. How long has it been?
Like a month.
Wow.
I was kind of getting bored with it anyway, but like I was like, whatever.
Which Overwatch voice line would you spam while you were shredding important documents?
That's a good question.
I'm pretty sure Nathan Fillion can fill in the gaps in Destiny 2. You could probably take up Destiny 2 and have a lot of fun with that.
I used to spam Woo Jackpot from Lucio a lot because it was really obnoxious because you could just spam woo, woo, woo. And that would sound nice going into the shredder.
Well, isn't Destiny's not the same kind of game, is it? Isn't that like PvE?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to scratch the itch.
Team Fortress? I don't know. Still a lot of people playing Team
Krista
Fortress.
getting into Team Fortress.
I think if I had gotten into Team Fortress like when it first launched, I would have been really into it. But when we played it on stream, the people who are left playing Team Fortress are like the super hardcore people. And I was like, I don't understand the meta of the characters yet. I don't understand all the abilities yet. And it's frustrating to play.
You know what I miss? I miss the Unreal Tournament 2004 Capture the Point games where they had vehicles and you would like capture a node and that would unlock another node and then you'd have to capture that node. That was the pinnacle of like multiplayer team co-op.
Isn't that Battlefield as well?
It's a little.
I think Modern Battlefield does that.
I played Modern Battlefield and it doesn't. It's just not as. It's actually not as fast paced as the old Unreal Tournament 2004.
You know what game looks really interesting, and I know I'm too old, and that it's bothering me because I was like, I want to be a part of this. It seems really cool, but I know I can't compete. Is Hell Let Loose? It's World War II, I guess, and no UI, no in-game chat. You take points like Unreal Tournament, but you have to have an officer there to do it. So you really have to play with your teammates.
Wow.
But it'd be one of those games where I just die and I don't know how.
Yeah.
Well, California is still. These court battles are so annoying because it's like ping pong, you know.
Yeah.
And then we're just sitting here like cats, like
No, you.
So now we're back to no gig worker initiative.
California rules gig worker initiative is unconstitutional. You cannot classify gig workers as different and apart and special from other workers, at least currently as it is under California law.
Some gig workers seem to like that, some don't. Definitely seems to be two sides here.
I really think that the future of gig working has got to be some kind of a co-op. I just don't think we're going to have a Walmart of gig working because there's not enough money to be made there.
But to do that, you have to compete with the Walmart and destroy them.
Uber, I think, has only got probably a year or two left because they're not profitable.
Yeah, but that can go on for so long.
Only if there's wealthy that are interested in
Right.
destroying
Propping
another
up.
market.
Yeah.
See, but you're learning something here that's very disturbing when you get into this kind of thing. The market can stay insane far longer than you can stay solvent.
That does seem to be true because isn't that how Walmart put out Main Street? And
That's and Amazon too.
I meant to include a story on it. Did you see that what they're doing with like the dark box store valuations? So like around here, how we've got all the empty malls, they're petitioning to have their buildings reevaluated on property taxes to be the same value as the empty malls because they're just it's a big empty box, and that's removing millions of dollars in property taxes. And so like little communities that have already given incentives to the big box stores to move in the form of tax breaks and other stuff, they also now don't get any
Actual return on.
there's now less taxes being paid when there were Main Street businesses doing stuff.
Gosh, that seems like it's contrary to the common good. How would that have ever been made into law?
And then, the California gig worker is like the same thing happening over and over again.
Maybe this has something to do with those lobbying dollars when you consolidate.
That's the theme of this week's news. Oh my gosh.
Didn't we go through this like years ago in like the 1900s where they were like, monopolies are bad?
In like the 1980s.
Where was
Yeah.
the railroads?
Yeah.
The railroads destroyed the corporate charter thing was never supposed to work like this. And those railroad barons are the ones who started that ball rolling. I mean, they were useful though. Did we get more out of the rail than we lost in terms of personal freedoms and liberties?
Wasn't that built with like Chinese slave labor?
Yeah.
A lot of rails. I mean,
There's I've been reading about Siberia and the gulags and stuff like that. There's a road called the Bone Road because they literally just put the bodies down as they were going, and they're all under there, and it's permafrost.
Wow.
So they're still there.
but they'll probably be melted in a few years.
Over in the UK, they kind of have GDPR, but now they've separated, and what's it going to be? Well, we don't know.
GDPR happened during Brexit, and the headline is UK to overhaul privacy rules and post-Brexit departure from GDPR. So the European Union has GDPR, and Brexit, and during Brexit it was copy-paste, but they're saying, oh, maybe we should not have GDPR. Maybe we should, reform it. And so what's been floated so far demonstrates a hilarious misunderstanding of how technology works, and we're probably going to be back to like the real ID card in order to get on the internet, which is probably bad.
Think they'll go back to the adult content thing?
Probably.
They had to give up on.
It's like, that was such a good idea. I don't know why we didn't do that. Let's try again.
Who was it? Australia that said they were going to do that last? And we still haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, every other country it seems like gets that idea, and then they're like, oh, it's not feasible.
Yeah, Australia's got a lot of stuff in DNS ban, but then you can just use a DNS server outside of Australia, and in Australia they're like, well, I guess that's fine.
It gets the headline, right? Well, nothing else matters. Now, there's been a couple of times we've looked at these ransomware attacks or just, the data thefts and stuff like that. And there's a lot of argument. Was this state-sponsored? Was this just private teams? Is it Russia? Is it China? Blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you're like, well, I don't know. I think actually you bring this up a lot. It's like, would a state-sponsored person do that? Because that's just going to expose them. Why would they do that one? Because why do they need to steal money? They're state-sponsored. This is probably the answer.
It turns out, this is amazing. Spies for hire. China's new breed of hackers blend espionage and entrepreneurship. So these are spies, according to the article, these are spies that are working for state-sponsored organizations, but they're rank-and-file employees just like everybody else. Sometimes, you're deep in the machine, you're in the finance machines, you're in the, the payroll machine, and it's like, wow, I could just hit a button and transfer $70,000 out of this account to somewhere else. And so they do. And then that tips them off that, hey, this is an espionage operation. But they're able to exfiltrate, real actual money because they had access to those systems.
Also, they point out they go outside the country a lot. Like, I think it was the Philippines, right, where the one guy was from. And the way they caught on to this is it never happens that China posts a non-Chinese language job posting. But in this case, Filipino, because they knew exactly who they wanted. Maybe that'll bring them together. And we got a far larger than usual South Korea block today. A lot of stuff going on down there. And we'll start out with Facebook. And finally somebody did this. Hey, what about our leaders?
Facebook used facial recognition without consent 200,000 times, said Korea's data watchdog. And so it hands Zuck its second largest fine ever, and also makes Netflix pay and warns Google to be more obvious about privacy. So this is really interesting. Google actually didn't get fined for a change. And the other fines, most of them were very small. $22,000, $14,000, $6,000 or $8,000. And it's really just, this big audit that they did to find out how data was handled. And they just said, well, Google, you could do a couple of things better, but it wasn't contrary to the law, so we're not going to fine you. But, of course, Facebook was not doing a great job.
And what do you think Google did to get away with it?
They took some money out of their bribe account and gave it to the South Korean officials who were investigating, obviously.
Why didn't Facebook do that?
Facebook's running lower on money because they've been bribing too many officials at this point. And now South Korea's getting in on it. They're like, oh, crap.
I did not realize. I'm sure we talked about. Oh no, 10 years ago, so we didn't talk about this.
No, say China has this, but South Korea, I didn't know they had it.
Yeah, South Korea has their own gaming restrictions, not quite as draconian as China, or I should say, they did.
South Korea to end its controversial gaming curfew. So this was, if you are 16 or under, you cannot play video games at like a video game cafe between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m.
2011. They assumed that if nothing else, that would give kids 6 hours to sleep before they went back to their PUBG addiction. But I guess it's not working? I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's interesting. I can't imagine being out like that late at that age, but
The law said that, or the article said that the law also restricted like console gaming. So like if you were required to be online, as is the case with console games, that it would also have to follow the rules. And what Microsoft and Sony did was, rather than like try to figure out what your gaming schedule was if you were 16, is they just made you have to be an adult in order to set up an account, which is, they said, was an unintended side effect. They didn't want to, have to have kids lie about their age in order to play console games.
South Korea has also, I guess they got together and they're like, all right, now is our turn. It's our turn to go after the big tech companies. We've gotten the letter in the mail. We're ready. Get your fines ready.
South Korea Parliament Committee votes to curb Google and Apple commission dominance. So this is about their app stores. It's almost as if somebody, woke up inside the South Korean Parliament and said, hey, wait a minute. It is kind of like, if you want to buy software from me, a software developer, what say does Google or Apple have in that? Why can they take 30%? It's like, oh, it's because it's a Google or Apple controlled device. Nothing else really operates like that. Like when you buy a phone, it's your phone. You can do what you want with it. When you buy a computer, it's your computer. You can load whatever software you want on it. It interferes with commerce, and that's sort of not capitalism to have somebody there with their palm out saying, well, if you want to do that, you're going to have to pay me. At least in this way.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that. And yet. Moving on to social media. And I noticed one of these. I don't spend a lot of time on Reddit, but I did notice one of these. And I was like, why is this on my front page? This is nothing I would ever be
like
interested
every
in.
subreddit had it for a while.
Turns out it was everywhere.
Reddit responds to calls from moderators to fight disinformation. Reddit has basically said, look, the internet is full of people that have very strong opinions. We really, really don't want to get involved, even though some of those opinions are unsavory. And we don't really think this is a big deal.
It's particularly about the jab.
Yeah.
If you're speaking out against the jab, they want you completely silenced. A lot of people have been accusing me in the comments of being anti-vax. Could not be further from the truth. I think every single human being on Earth should get it, except for me. And to say that I'm like angry at those that do get it, again, couldn't be further from the truth. I salute you for being in that clinical trial. You're doing a wonderful thing.
Hey, it's fully approved now.
Right? It is fully approved. Yeah. Monday. We just don't have long-term data yet.
Sure. I think anybody who had, the selflessness to get that vaccine, they have really big hearts.
They gave me nachos.
Really big hearts, and only a very small portion of those is because of the inflammation.
I was going to ask this, actually. They did Crush the Thing in our area. Did you get a free crush with your... What's the point?
You were the one person that should have gotten it. Also, Chris, you stepped on my inflammation punchline. I'm angry about that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I saw where you were going with that, and it was just like...
I just had that thought, and I was like, did Wendell get one? Of all the, we're sitting here drinking orange soda all the time. You should have gotten one from the county.
I've still got a couple of the very kind of the sausage toast.
I was just going to ask how much you've got left.
I've got like 2 cans left, and I've for the last 6 cans, I've been really conservative because it's like.
What's your average cans per day since you got them?
I think I had 2 on the first day, which is delightful, and then I've probably averaged about 1 can every other day. Maybe the last 3 days I've gone about 2 or 3 days without one, but I've been really fiending for one.
I think It's not unrealistic to expect Sausage Toast to pick up some like gig work on the side so he can continue the pipeline.
Supply.
Yeah.
Whenever Ken Burns does a documentary about, the hardships of 2020 and 2021, we'll have an excerpt of that interview of you being like, I've been conserving my Orange Crush.
Well, I've been having trouble getting, because Mom is real picky about stuff, like the cat food and like certain breakfast snacks and just all of the stuff and the brands. And she's like, are you just not going to do grocery shopping for me anymore? And it's like, I go to the store like 3 times a week, which is about 2 more times than I want to go. Because there is nothing. There is nothing available.
Yesterday, there was not a single small individual serving bottle of bottled water in the entire store.
You got to start drinking tap water like the rest of us peasants.
Luckily, they had some gallon jugs of Nestle, but those were almost all gone. They had 8. I got 6 of them. And that's really, really hitting home.
Gotta start eating vegetables and stuff too. You can't be affording meat anymore.
Oh yeah, the meat prices are just bananas.
Everything's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. Facebook.
Ken Burns cut here.
How old is Ken Burns?
He's ancient.
Yeah.
He did a documentary about the Great Depression I watched last year. It was really good. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
His Vietnam, his Civil War is amazing. Have you watched the Civil War one? Oh, you gotta watch the Civil War one. It's great. Facebook. Of course, Facebook had the big election fiasco in 2016. A lot of people judged them on it, but they kind of came out the other side looking okay because they gave the masses what they want. They silenced the crowd by letting them eat the orange man. But it's going to happen again really soon, and they know that, and they have to do something.
Facebook said to consider forming an election commission. The social network has contacted academics to create a group to advise it on thorny election-related decisions, said people with knowledge of the matter. What a great way to alienate the non-academics.
Yeah. Now,
which has already caused problems in this country.
If we pull exclusively from the university system, I wonder if that'll be weighted toward one political party or not.
No, that's impossible. It's a random distribution, right?
And by one political party, I mean the Chinese Communist Party.
That divide between rural and urban, it feels like it's just getting bigger every year.
Except they're all moving here.
I checked on some of the people that the FBI charged as like, oh my gosh, you're spying for China. They don't have a great track record so far. They may be overreacting.
Wait, who doesn't have a great track record?
The FBI.
Oh yeah. Facebook is still insistent that they are going to get into the digital wallet thing and the crypto, and Libra is still lurking in the background there. They don't like to talk about that, but I'm sure that there are still plans to dust that off eventually.
I love this.
And this is going to be maybe a way to get the kids involved.
Bloomberg's headline is, Facebook considers building NFT features alongside a digital wallet. Social network is definitely looking at digital assets as part of a push into financial products, executive says. So you got to understand, this is not Libra. They're worried about attracting too much attention with Libra. So what's actually going on here is they want to build a crypto wallet that also works with whatever stuff they're going to build in. So it just so happens that it's going to have similar functionality to Libra, but it's not going to be dependent on Libra, at least not at first. But then they're also going to build in NFTs, and hey, you want to have like a garage sale thing on Facebook? What if you could just handle that transaction seamlessly and cleanly in Facebook? It's a win-win, but we're not going to talk about that. Even with productized names, it's just going to be a way for you to handle your money on Facebook.
And I bet every other kind of transaction will have fees, and Libra won't.
Oh, that's we're not going to say that. We're not going to talk about that. That's our goal was to make it easy for people to deal with money. We're not going to talk about those things.
Everyone on Marketplace just does cash. Some people do Venmo, but most people are just like, give me cash when you get here.
That sounds like terrorism, Kristen.
Yeah. A lot of the time, some people are really terrible too, because it's like, this is $100, and they're like, okay, that sounds great. And then they show up and they're like, all I've got is $80 in cash. And it's like, all right, we'll leave.
See ya.
How much of your flesh are we going to cut off? Let's say £1. Facebook, so we got two stories here. The first is just about what they did, and then the second is why they did it, and then you understand why they did it.
Facebook suppressed a report that made it look bad.
Surprise!
New York Times obtained a draft of a report that was in the works about the first quarter of 2021.
What was so bad about this?
Facebook says that this one post that cast doubt on the vaccine was the most popular on the platform from January through March. Oh, no.
Now, you're probably thinking, oh, this was, like, who's the hot right-wing person right now? Tucker Carlson? Tucker Carlson, getting out there and being like, you don't get it, it's going to kill you, blah, blah, blah. No. It wasn't even, like, all that critical. It was an actual, like...
a dude in a truck?
South Florida Sun, distributed by the Chicago Tribune, and it was just about, like, actual facts about a doctor who died after getting the vaccine. So it wasn't really propaganda, but Facebook was very embarrassed that this is what people wanted to read. So they hid that fact. Until somebody found out about they were hiding it. Now they've embarrassed themselves and told us about it. I think what they're most embarrassed about there is that they couldn't control the narrative. They made a position, and then the people went against it, and they were like, again?
Now, while you're thinking about that, I want you to think back about the lobbying and consolidation theme.
I was just thinking, man, that's really going to make it hard for them to lobby Congress if it's like, you can't even control the narrative about this. How are you supposed to get me elected?
Exactly, yeah. That is kind of like their performance sheet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you go to talk to the congressman, you take him his duffel bag full of cash. He's like, listen, guys, I got an offer from Google. And they get stuff done. Ethiopia has had some political turmoil, and do you understand it? I don't quite understand it. I'm not going to
I
try
haven't
to
followed that, so I'm not sure.
I'm going to try to take a position on it, but there's definitely controversy, and social media, like everywhere else, is a big boiling pot for that controversy. So what do you do?
Ethiopia to build local rival to Facebook and other platforms, because I guess people were posting things that they shouldn't have been posting, or things that didn't fit the narrative. We don't know. But because Ethiopia is so far removed from everything, Twitter and Facebook weren't super responsive. So now they're like, okay, we need to build our own that we can control, which is kind of the theme for everywhere.
Well, I think some of this might also be that Twitter and Facebook don't agree with those in power.
Yeah.
Like they're like, no, let people say what they want. They don't like that. They're not going to ban it, they say. I don't know about that.
Once they get theirs built, they probably will.
They have turned it off. The last time they had an election, they turned it off for several days. So it's not unprecedented. Boy, we got a lot of comments on last Friday's news video. Everybody correcting this. We didn't know at the time.
Yeah, this was recent
This
news
was
post.
recorded ahead of time.
OnlyFans drops the planned ban of adult content, but will continue to allow it. And as predicted, it was the banks. Although, I don't know, like we said that early, like a week early, and then maybe that was news. But yeah, they literally said we wouldn't, like this wasn't our decision. It was basically, we're not going to be able to take credit cards unless we change the kind of content that we offer. But they found another bank that was willing to deal with them. And so after that, then they can say, yeah. Because if you say, oh, it's, the payment processor, they're just going to cut you off immediately. They thought they could still survive in some reduced way. They wouldn't, their business is profitable. They wouldn't change anything if they didn't have to. It's external forces. Which, again, is like the Apple thing. Isn't that somebody torturously interfering with your business? How is that not illegal?
But I don't understand. Well, but now you're saying that the bank has to bake your cake. Right?
It has to handle money for you.
Yeah, you're forcing them. You can't do that.
What if you incorporate it with the Federal Reserve? Like if you have a bank that wants to do that, fine, but then they're not, they're not going to be allowed to participate with the Federal Reserve.
They can't use the repo window?
Yeah.
They would all get on board the next day.
That's how you fix those problems.
Well, but then you're using the government's hand to steer a certain direction.
No,
what if we're wrong?
The free market, if you want to have a private bank, that's completely okay.
How about we just let other banks be banks and fight the monopoly?
Yeah, that would also be acceptable.
Yeah. Change all that regulation so that you have the ability to create a bank without already being super rich. And this one is hilarious.
The picture is amazing.
You really
This is a
now
good
he,
photo.
as far as we know, he was not a part of it.
Yeah.
No.
That would have probably immediately drawn too much attention. But if you're a little bit lower ranked, a lot of guys thought they could get away with this, and apparently did for quite some time.
The Vatican is in quote-unquote freak-out mode after discovering a litany of priests on Grindr. So we had that story the other day about the priest that was on Grindr, and they knew because they were able to de-anonymize his geolocation data. Well, it turns out there's a lot of that kind of data out there, and anybody that's interested can kind of figure it out. You can also just sort of ask around and, like, you know, maybe you've got the spreadsheet of priests, and you can sort of run through that and, you know, find if anybody's got a public profile, and oh crap, they do.
A lot of them that were found on there, they're not priests anymore.
I would absolutely say that these guys have a right to privacy, and why would you even just let them do what they want to do if it wasn't for them standing up in front of groups of people every week and telling them how to live? Once you do that, whatever happens to you is fair
They took
game.
an oath of celibacy. Say
That's
the same
true.
thing if they were on Tinder or any dating site. It's kind of like, what are you doing?
Maybe they're just looking for conversation.
You can get that at church.
Listen, I'm gonna get the hotel room. I'm gonna do the meth with this young man, but there's no sex. I take that very seriously.
We just watch TV together.
Right, yeah. And nothing with an R rating.
It's just WKYT.
Yeah.
Because that's all you can get in the.
And nothing not on meth.
I do love that photo. It looks like he's getting ready to throw the book. Literally.
He's just like, what is going on?
You know what's in this book? It's all the reasons I'm gonna kick your ass.
All right, what do we got for tomorrow?
We haven't chosen yet. It's gonna be business and whatever the next smallest group is.
You know what else is going to be chosen? The next orange soda.
I don't think you gave a letter grade or a venue.
Oh yeah. Oh, switch it back so they can watch.
This is probably a B minus. It's a little too sugary. Because it's a little too sugary, I wouldn't want it except like after dinner. Like this would be a good after dinner snack after having had like a steak or something, but you're not overly full.
Is this like? Well, you said it was from a truck stop, correct?
I think it was something like that.
Well, that makes sense that it's like hyper sugary because it's probably like you get that so you can stay awake on your route at night.
Well, there's no caffeine or anything in it. It's just sugar.
Does it say where it's bottled? Who makes that?
I think this is maybe from a 12-pack or something.
North Korea.
A sampler.
Thousand Oaks, California.
Okay.
RBC Co. Terrorizing taste. It tastes
What a bizarre label.
like violent orange, which tastes nothing like orange in general.
All right. We'll see you guys. What? The day from now? Whatever. We'll
Tomorrow.
see you soon. Bye.
The first day of September.
Oh my
September.
gosh, I'm not okay with time moving this fast. Time needs to stop.
It's not going to. Bye.